"You're off the project until you apologize to my son." The words weren't shouted, they didn't need to be. The Zoom froze for a heartbeat, cameras blinking, 117 faces watching me. And in that moment, 19 years of work, of quiet devotion, of building a $600 million company's compliance backbone, hung by a thread. My name is Maya Drake. Until that moment, I still believed loyalty meant security. People think quiet means weak. They think tenure means exhaustion or compliance. That's why executives love legacy employees. Until the same employees remind them that the office they occupy sits atop foundations they themselves did not lay. Lucas didn't know risk logs from access protocols. He thought segregation of duties was a seating chart. Yet here he was, director of operational efficiency simply because of a last name. No interviews. No experience. Just recycled TED Talk confidence and a father who bowed HR in his direction. Before Lucas, my days were steady. No drama, just humming pipelines, clean logs, and zero outages. I trained interns, built systems that survived mergers, acquisitions, and 3 CFO transitions. 2 of those former CFO's kids still send me holiday cards. I was the invisible scaffolding that made the company look seamless. Lucas arrived with the arrogance of entitlement. He started deleting without reading, dismissing decades of safeguards as archaeological debt. I politely asked if he wanted to review audit histories first. He waved me off. "It's called Agile, Maya. Maybe Google it." That's when I realized. This wasn't restructuring. This was a purge. His second week, he proposed sunsetting a tool I'd built after a major breach. A tool cross-referencing vendor changes against payroll entries. Reason? It clutters the dashboard. I scheduled a one-on-one. He skipped twice. Then a Slack. Trim the fat and get with the program. No greeting, no sign-off. I flagged the risk, documented every change, and escalated internally. The next morning, the CFO called me into a company-wide Zoom. Cameras on. Lucas smiling like he'd already won. My instructions? Publicly apologize for creating a culture of fear. I unmuted, said, "Okay." Silence filled the room. But that okay wasn't surrender. It was the start of something far larger. I opened an old encrypted drive. Dormant for years. Inside. Artifacts from when I was a consultant, pre-acquisition, pre-rebrand. Addendum Clause 7C. Forced removal without due process. Contractor retains exclusive rights to derivative software, including all compliance frameworks, dashboards, and protocols. In other words, cut me without cause, the bones remain mine. They never noticed. Not once in 19 years. And that was the plan. After that Zoom, I didn't shout. I didn't resign right away. I just sat watching the screen blink. The resignation template waited, but I didn't touch it. Years of building systems taught me that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits, quietly, invisibly, until the foundation you built becomes undeniable. I opened my encrypted drive, untouched for years. Inside were the original compliance frameworks, vendor protocols, shadow dashboards, and audit trails from the earliest days of Ridge South systems. And the clause I had drafted myself long before anyone thought of me as legacy staff spelled out exactly what I could reclaim if I was forced out. I logged into my real admin console, bypassing Lucas's flashy overlay, and began systematically redirecting keys tied to system syncs. Not revoking, just gently rerouting, shutting down pipelines that legally belonged to my dormant company. Step by step, I executed a controlled cascade. Revoke dashboard handshakes, disable backup syncs, prepare encryption logs for legal oversight. Each action looked routine on paper. Just maintenance. But it was a silent avalanche. I plugged in a thumb drive hidden for years. Inside, the last untouched copy of the compliance shadow logs. No cloud, no duplicates, no oversight. Total control. By the next morning, the investor portal started stuttering. Small glitches at first. Lucas probably blamed a technical hiccup. He didn't realize the deletions exposed gaps that could bypass multiple safeguards. Critical audit logs were missing, overwritten by his careless deletions. The systems I had built to protect the company now revealed the negligence that had been ignored for weeks. Internal alerts went off. Legal escalated the issue. The board convened an emergency meeting. The first slide of the presentation was blank, except for a single warning in red: audit trail missing. Whispers spread across the room. Someone mentioned my name. Maya Drake is the sole custodian of the encrypted archive. The room went silent. Fear replaced arrogance. Lucas's confident smile faltered. The CFO's eyes widened. I hadn't broken the company. I hadn't leaked data or gone public. I simply reclaimed what I had always owned. Years of silent work, contracts unread by management finally enforced. The foundation remained mine, and it became impossible for anyone else to ignore it. Later, a private email arrived from the CEO's assistant. I hope you're well. Things escalated. Open to a conversation? No agenda, just talk. I didn't reply right away. I sipped my coffee, watched the light shift across the laptop, and waited. Every piece of the plan was in place. They needed me whether they knew it or not. By midday, the situation had fully shifted. The investor portal was failing and internal alerts were multiplying. Lucas's deletions had exposed vulnerabilities I had warned about quietly for weeks. Now the gaps were undeniable. Legal teams escalated. The board called urgent meetings. The room that once buzzed with routine confidence now hummed with confusion and dread. I wasn't part of the panic. I had already activated all the safeguards I had prepared over the years. Audit dashboards were rerouted to my secure systems. Vendor protocols, license keys, compliance logs, all under my control. Every glitch, every missing file, every oversight that Lucas had created pointed back to the need for expertise he could never match. Meanwhile, Lucas struggled to recover. He tried to explain, to patch things in real time, but the damage was already evident. Systems that had run seamlessly for years were now exposed as fragile, poorly understood by the person entrusted with them. His confidence faltered. Titles and fancy Zoom backgrounds meant nothing when the foundation had been quietly removed from under him. The board quickly realized the gravity. My access and expertise were not optional, they were essential. The gaps Lucas created could have triggered investigations, fines, or worse. I hadn't destroyed anything. I simply reclaimed control. Their reliance on me, always underestimated, was now impossible to ignore. I received discreet messages from the CEO's assistant and a few board members. Invitations to meet, discussions of advisory roles, and requests for secure consultations. I didn't rush. I had orchestrated this carefully, and I wasn't about to respond until I chose the terms. My position was no longer as an employee. Now I was a consultant, a strategic overseer, quietly guiding the company while maintaining complete autonomy. Lucas's influence continued to erode. His innovations were abandoned one by one. Titles remained, but without access or credibility they were hollow. HR issued statements in neutral language, spinning legacy system review for transparency, but internally everyone knew the truth. I had reclaimed the foundation, and it couldn't be rebuilt by someone who didn't understand its construction. At home I finally exhaled. The coffee lukewarm, the fire crackling beside me, I reviewed the last set of logs one final time. Everything was in order. No alarms, no loose ends, no chaos. The company could continue, but it would now operate under the quiet, unseen guidance of someone who knew every corner of its architecture. I didn't dismantle the empire. I didn't leak secrets or whistleblow. I simply stepped back and let the people who had ignored decades of work stumble in the gaps they created themselves. It was quiet, precise, and irrevocable. And as I closed the laptop, the familiar sense of satisfaction settled in. Years of loyalty, oversight, and preparation had culminated in a moment of perfect clarity. I had shown that expertise cannot be replaced by names, titles, or entitlement. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it waits, invisible, until the moment it's undeniable. After reclaiming control, life felt unusually calm. The chaos Lucas had introduced, the pressure of misplaced authority, and the constant tension of being undervalued, all of it was gone. The company continued to run, but under a quiet watch that ensured the foundation remained intact. I wasn't there to micromanage. I was there to safeguard. I began transitioning into my advisory role, a position that allowed me to operate on my terms. Meetings were strategic, discussions were focused, and my influence was respected without spectacle. I no longer needed approval to act or permission to correct. Decisions flowed through the systems I built, systems that were finally recognized for their enduring value. Lucas's presence faded. Titles remained, but authority without understanding meant nothing. Every attempt he made to assert control quietly faltered. The lessons he learned came through observation rather than instruction. He realized that expertise cannot be replaced with entitlement, and that a legacy built over years cannot be erased by arrogance. I spent my days quietly reviewing logs, refining processes, and mentoring selectively people who valued guidance over ego. The office had changed, but not because of dramatic gestures or public confrontations. Change happened because preparation, patience, and careful strategy had shifted the balance. I had reclaimed what was mine and ensured it would endure. At home, I reflected on what this all meant. Years of loyalty had not gone to waste. They had built experience, resilience, and clarity. I understood now that true power is quiet. It is preparation, it is knowledge, and it is the ability to act decisively when the moment arrives. Loud victories can be fleeting. Quiet victories last because they are unseen until fully realized. I didn't need recognition or applause. I didn't dismantle the company or humiliate anyone publicly. I acted within the bounds of what I had always built, and in doing so, created a space where expertise, not entitlement, dictated outcomes. It was a subtle, perfect balance, one that ensured the company remained secure and that I retained autonomy. Some evenings I sit at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, laptop closed. The fire crackles beside me. I think of all the years, the quiet work, the overlooked details, and the long preparation that culminated in this calm satisfaction. I smile because the foundation, the systems, the integrity, they are all exactly where they should be. I never needed confrontation to assert control. I needed foresight, patience, and the courage to act when necessary. Some lessons are learned through noise. Some are learned in silence. The loudest victories are not the ones that draw attention. They are the ones that quietly shift the balance of power without anyone realizing until it's too late. If you've ever been called old school by someone who couldn't read your code, stay. The next story might feel uncomfortably familiar. Hit subscribe. We drop new ones twice a day. And we never raise our voice.